So this is from the Statistics, Practice of Statistics 5E in the section 9.2, the conditions for a one-sample z-test. So we have conditions that have to be in place before we can actually do the one-sample z-test. And just a quick review, here's the conditions. Number one is we have to have a random sample or a randomized experiment. Then we have to have the 10% rule, which means that the population has to be at least 10 times as large as the sample. One way that could be written is n less than or equal to 1/10 n, or you could write n greater than or equal to 10 little n. And then the large counts, we need to know that the count is large enough, so we multiply the sample size times the p0 proportion. So the sample has to be large enough so that when we multiply n times the proportion, that it's greater than or equal to 10, and n times 1 minus the proportion also has to be greater than or equal to 10. Another way to say that is the expected counts of successes and failures are both at least 10. So let's take a look at problem 31. Jason reads a report that says that 80% of high school students have a computer at home. He believes the proportion is smaller than 0.80 at his large rural high school. Jason chooses an SRS of 60 students and records whether they have a computer at home. So the first condition, SRS, simple random sample, that takes care of the random condition. And then we want the population to be greater than or equal to 10 times the sample size. Sample size is 60. So we want the population to be greater than or equal to 10 times 60, or 600. So in this particular case, the population is all U.S. high school students. So we definitely know that there are more than 600 high school students in the U.S. So that means condition 2 has been met. And then the third condition would be n times p greater than or equal to 10. So we take n, which is 60, multiply by p0, which is 0.80, and we get 48. And that is greater than 10. So then we do 1 minus 0.80, and that equals 60 times 0.20, and that equals 12. And so that also meets the condition. Let's look at another problem. So we have a recent report that claims 13% of students typically walk to school. Deanna thinks that the proportion is higher at her large elementary school. So she surveys a random sample. So there's our random condition. Our n is 100. So we want to make sure that our population is greater than or equal to 10 times n. We want to make our population is greater than or equal to 10 times 100 or 1,000. And what is our population? Well, it's talking about students, which would be all students. And typically, probably, they don't mention it, but maybe the U.S. or even in the state. So our population has to be greater than 1,000. Most likely it is. And the third condition, n times p0, has to be greater than or equal to 10. So we've got a sample of 100 students, and the p0 is 0.13. That's equal to 13. So that works. And then 100 times 1 minus 0.13. That's 100 times 0.87. 87. And that works. So all three conditions have been met for this problem. Let's take a look at exercise 33. And this one we're going to look at figuring out what the reason is that we can't carry out this one sample z-test. So one or more of the conditions will not be met. Okay, so the this problem, we toss a coin 10 times. So the randomization is taken care of because when you toss a coin, it's going to be random as to your result. And then we want the large counts, which would be n times p greater than or equal to 10. So our n in this case is 10. Our p is 0.5. That equals 5. And so our large count condition has not been met because this number is not greater than 10. We would have to have a bigger sample size to make this a problem that we could use the one sample z-test for. The other condition, the population greater than or equal to 10 times the sample size, population has to be greater than 100. We really don't know what our population is here because we could keep tossing this coin infinitely. So our population is basically infinite here, and that's greater than 100. So one last example, this is number 34. College president says 99% of the alumni support my firing of Coach Boggs. You contact an SRS of 200 of the college's 15,000 living alumni to perform a test of H sub 0 p equal 0.99 versus H alternative p less than 0.99. So we need to check our conditions because one of these conditions is going to prevent us from doing a one sample z-test. So we do have a random sample. Let's look at our population. Is that greater than or equal to 10 times the sample size? The sample size is 200. And the population would be the 15,000 living alumni. 15,000 greater than or equal to 2,000. So the 10% rule is met. Now we need to check our large counts. We're going to do n times p. That's going to be 200 times 0.99. That's 198. Remember, NP has to be greater than or equal to 10, but N1 minus P has to be greater or equal to 10. N1 minus P is going to be 200 times 0.01, which is only equal to 2. So there would be our condition that is not met. So in this case, we cannot use a one sample z-test.